Imagine building a business around something almost everyone needs, but almost nobody wants to do themselves. Cleaning. Homes need cleaning, offices need cleaning, restaurants need cleaning, schools need cleaning, Airbnbs need cleaning, and businesses can spend thousands of hours every year doing it. So what if instead of cleaning houses yourself, you built a company that sends other people to do the cleaning for you? At first, it sounds almost too simple. Find customers, hire cleaners, clean the property, collect the money, repeat. But this simplicity is deceptive, because a cleaning business can have dozens of customers and still struggle to make money. You can have employees working every day and still have terrible margins, and you can generate hundreds of thousands in revenue while the owner is still trapped answering calls, replacing cleaners, fixing scheduling problems, and chasing payments. So what actually makes a cleaning business work? Is it the number of customers, the number of cleaners, the price of each job, the contracts, the location, or the systems behind everything? Because the real business isn't cleaning. The real business is building a reliable system that repeatedly delivers a service customers are willing to pay for. And the question we're going to answer is, what has to be true for a cleaning business to work? If you enjoy breaking down the businesses hiding in plain sight, subscribe, because on this channel, we take ordinary businesses and uncover the strategy that makes them work. Let's start with the most important thing. At first, the answer seems obvious. A cleaning business sells cleaning. But that's not really what customers are buying. A homeowner isn't necessarily paying for someone to move a vacuum around the house. They're paying for time. They're paying to avoid doing something they don't want to do. They're paying for convenience, and they're paying for a predictable result. For a business customer, the equation can be even more obvious. Imagine an office with 30 employees. Those employees could spend part of every week cleaning bathrooms, emptying trash, vacuuming floors, and wiping down surfaces. But that's not what they're being paid to do. They're being paid to work on the business. So the company hires a cleaning service. Now the employees can focus on their actual jobs. The cleaning company isn't simply selling cleaning. It's selling time saved, labor outsourced, consistency, and peace of mind. That's important because it tells us something about the customer. They aren't buying a mop, they're buying the outcome. They want to walk into a clean building without having to think about how it got that way. And once a business or homeowner finds a cleaning service they trust, something very valuable can happen. They keep paying. Cleaning has one major advantage over many small businesses. The need keeps coming back. A house gets dirty again. An office gets dirty again. A restaurant gets dirty again. A short-term rental gets dirty again. A medical facility gets dirty again. The problem resets itself. That creates recurring demand. And recurring demand is one of the most attractive characteristics a small business can have. But there are different types of customers. A homeowner might book a cleaner once a month. Another might want weekly cleaning. A landlord might need cleaning between tenants. An Airbnb operator might need cleaning after every guest. An office might sign a contract for cleaning several times a week. These customers can have very different economics, and that's where strategy becomes important. Because the goal isn't simply get more cleaning customers. The goal is get the right cleaning customers. A customer who pays once and disappears is very different from a customer who signs a 12-month contract, and that difference can completely change the economics of the business. The basic revenue formula is simple. Number of customers times price per service times frequency equals revenue. Imagine a cleaner has 20 recurring residential customers. Each customer pays $150 per cleaning. If they each book once a week, that's 20 times $150 equals $3,000 per week. Approximately $12,000 a month before expenses. Now imagine you don't add another customer. Instead, you increase the average value of those customers. Maybe some purchase deep cleaning services. Maybe some add windows. Maybe some add refrigerators or ovens. Maybe some move from monthly to bi-weekly service. Revenue can increase without dramatically increasing the customer count. But there is an even more important variable: contract length and retention. Imagine you spend $100 in marketing and sales effort to acquire a customer. If that customer books once, you may not have much room to recover that acquisition cost. But if that same customer stays for a year, the economics look completely different. This is why recurring customers are so valuable. A cleaning business doesn't want to constantly start from zero. It wants a customer base that renews itself. This is where commercial cleaning becomes especially interesting. Imagine an office signs a cleaning contract. Maybe the cleaner comes 3 times a week. The business knows roughly how much it will invoice. The cleaning company knows roughly how many labor hours it needs. Supplies can be planned. Schedules can be planned. Staffing can be planned. Revenue becomes more predictable. That predictability has enormous value. Compare two businesses. Business A has to find 100 new customers every month. Business B has 20 customers who have signed recurring contracts. Which one is easier to operate? Business B, because the company can plan around known demand. And that's why the long-term strategy for a cleaning company often isn't, how many one-time jobs can we get? It's, how much recurring revenue can we build? But recurring revenue creates another problem. You have to deliver the service consistently. Now let's look at the other side. Cleaning businesses can appear inexpensive to start. You don't necessarily need a huge building. You don't need millions of dollars in equipment. You can start with relatively basic supplies. But that doesn't mean the business is easy, because the biggest cost is often labor. And labor creates a unique challenge. The customer doesn't pay for the cleaner's time directly, they pay for the finished service. So the cleaning company has to charge enough to cover cleaner wages, payroll-related costs, supplies, transportation, insurance, equipment, administrative costs, marketing, management, software, customer acquisition, and profit. This creates a very important equation. Revenue per job, total cost to deliver the job equals contribution. And the business lives or dies based on that contribution. If a customer pays $150, but the cleaner costs $100, transportation costs $15, supplies consume another $20, and other costs consume another $20, there isn't much left. So getting customers isn't enough. You need profitable customers. And this is where pricing becomes critical. One of the easiest mistakes in a cleaning business is underpricing. A new business looks at competitors and thinks, I'll charge less. That might bring customers, but it can also destroy the business. Because the customer sees one number, the price. The owner sees another, the true cost of delivering the service. And those aren't the same thing. Suppose you charge $100 for a cleaning job, but the job takes 5 labor hours. Suddenly that $100 doesn't look like much. Now add transportation, supplies, insurance, administration, scheduling, customer acquisition, payment processing, and eventually the cost of replacing equipment. The business can become extremely busy while barely making money. That's a dangerous position, because being busy isn't the same as being profitable. The right question isn't, can I get customers at this price? It's, can I deliver this service profitably at this price? That is a much more important question. Let's follow one cleaning job. A customer books a service. The company sends a cleaner. The cleaner travels to the property. The cleaner performs the work. The customer pays. Now break down the economics. How many labor hours were required? How far did the cleaner travel? How much were supplies? How much management time was involved? How much did the customer acquisition cost? How much revenue did the company collect? And finally, how much money was actually left? Now imagine the same customer books every week. The economics become much more attractive. The company already acquired the customer. The route is familiar. The cleaner knows the property. The customer knows what to expect. Scheduling becomes easier. The relationship becomes more valuable. This is why customer retention is so important. The first cleaning may be a transaction. The 20th cleaning is a relationship. And relationships are where the economics can become powerful. But there's another problem. What is the biggest bottleneck in a cleaning business? Often, it's not customers. It's reliable labor. Imagine you suddenly acquire 50 new contracts. Sounds fantastic. But then you realize you don't have enough cleaners. Now you have demand you can't fulfill. Customers get disappointed. Jobs get delayed. Employees become overworked. Quality falls. Reviews get worse. And customers leave. So growth can actually create problems. The business needs enough cleaners to fulfill the work, but it also doesn't want to hire too many people before demand exists. That creates a balancing act. Demand and labor capacity have to grow together. And there's another challenge. Not every cleaner is equally reliable. One person may arrive early. Another may constantly call in sick. One may follow the cleaning checklist perfectly. Another may rush through the job. One may communicate well with customers. Another may create complaints. So the cleaning business isn't simply managing labor, it's managing service consistency. And that is where systems become incredibly important. Imagine you run a cleaning company. A customer books a cleaning. What happens next? Someone answers the inquiry. The customer receives a quote. The job gets scheduled. A cleaner gets assigned. The cleaner receives the instructions. The customer gets reminders. The cleaner completes the job. Quality is checked. Payment is processed. The customer is asked for feedback. The next appointment is scheduled. That's a system. And the better that system becomes, the less dependent the business is on individual people remembering what to do. You can create cleaning checklists, standard operating procedures, employee training, scheduling systems, customer databases, automated reminders, payment systems, quality control procedures, performance tracking, and communication standards. Now you're no longer simply selling cleaning, You're operating a service delivery machine. That's the real business. Now we reach the central question. What has to be true for a cleaning business to work? Number 1. There must be recurring demand. People and businesses need cleaning repeatedly, but you need to find customers who value outsourcing that work. Number 2. The price must be high enough to support the economics. You can't build a profitable business around prices that don't cover labor and overhead. Number 3. Labor must be productive. The cleaner's time is the company's production capacity. If cleaners spend too much time driving, waiting, or dealing with poorly planned schedules, profitability suffers. Number 4. Customers must stay. Acquiring a customer is only the beginning. The economics become much stronger when that customer stays for months or years. Number 5. Service quality must be consistent. A cleaning company can't promise one thing and deliver another. Consistency builds trust. Trust creates retention. Retention creates recurring revenue. Number 6. Routes must be efficient. Imagine one cleaner has 3 customers. One is 5 minutes away. The second is 45 minutes away. The third is another hour away. The company may technically have customers, but transportation is consuming valuable labor time. Now imagine those same customers are concentrated in the same neighborhood. The economics improve. This is why route density matters. The more efficiently you can group jobs geographically, the more productive your cleaners can become. Number 7. The owner must build a management system. If every problem comes back to the owner, the company cannot scale. The owner needs people and processes that can handle scheduling, hiring, quality control, customer service, supplies, payroll, and operations. Number 8. Customer acquisition must make economic sense. You can't spend $200 acquiring a customer who will generate $150 in total profit. Marketing has to be evaluated against customer lifetime value. And that brings us to strategy. If I were starting a cleaning business, I wouldn't try to clean everything for everyone. I'd choose a market. Step 1. Pick a specific customer. Residential homes, office buildings, Airbnbs, restaurants, medical facilities, construction sites, property managers, each has different needs. Each has different pricing. Each has different service frequency. And each has different acquisition methods. The goal is to find a customer type with strong demand plus repeat need plus healthy margins. Once you've chosen the customer, I'd focus heavily on recurring contracts. For residential customers, weekly. Bi-weekly, monthly. For commercial customers, scheduled contracts. The goal is to create predictable demand. Instead of waking up every Monday wondering where the next customer will come from, you already know which properties need service this week. That's a fundamentally different business. Now comes one of the less obvious strategies. Don't just ask where can I find customers. Ask where can I find clusters of customers. If you have 10 homes in the same neighborhood, one cleaner can potentially serve those homes much more efficiently than 10 homes spread across an entire city. This reduces travel time, fuel, vehicle costs, scheduling complexity, and wasted labor. It can also make recruiting easier because cleaners don't have to spend their entire day driving. So geography becomes part of the business model. The goal is not simply customer density, it's profitable service density. Now create a standard. What exactly does a customer receive? Which rooms are cleaned? What gets wiped? What gets vacuumed? What gets sanitized? What is considered a completed job? The more standardized the service, the easier it becomes to train employees. It also makes quality easier to measure. You don't want every cleaner inventing their own definition of clean. You want the company to have a standard, because the customer is paying the company, not the individual cleaner. This is where many cleaning companies get stuck. The owner starts by cleaning houses. Then they hire one person, then 5, then 10, and suddenly the owner is spending all day answering calls, scheduling cleaners, replacing employees, handling complaints, buying supplies, checking invoices, and solving problems. At that point, the owner has created a bigger job, not a scalable company. So eventually, management needs to become a system, a scheduler, a team leader, a quality control process, a customer service system, a hiring process, a training system. The owner should gradually move away from doing the cleaning, then managing every cleaning, and eventually toward managing the system that manages the cleaning. That's the transition. Now let's apply our 3 levels. Level 1, understand the customer, understand the market, understand service frequency, understand pricing, understand labor costs, understand route density, understand customer acquisition, understand retention, understand the true cost of each job. Without this, you're guessing. Level 2, build the operation, choose your market, create the service, set pricing, acquire customers, hire cleaners, create schedules, Create checklists, set quality standards, create payment systems, build recurring contracts. Now the business works, but it's still heavily dependent on management. Level 3, optimize now. Ask, can cleaners serve more customers per day? Can travel time be reduced? Can customer retention improve? Can average revenue per customer increase? Can cleaning quality become more consistent? Can hiring become faster? Can training become easier? Can scheduling become automated? Can managers solve problems without the owner? Can the owner step away? That's optimization. And eventually, that's what turns a cleaning company into an asset. Now imagine the owner goes away for 30 days. What happens? Do customers still receive their cleaning? Are cleaners still scheduled? Are new customers still being contacted? Are invoices still sent? Are payments collected? Are supplies ordered? Are quality problems identified? Are customer complaints handled? Are employees managed? Does the business still generate revenue? If the answer is no, because I have to be there, then the business isn't systemized. The owner is the system. But if the company continues operating without the owner, something much more valuable has been created. A machine that converts customers plus labor plus systems into recurring service revenue. And that's the real goal. Once the first location or service area works, another question appears. Can the system be repeated? Can you add another cleaner, another team, another neighborhood, another city, another commercial contract? If the answer is yes, you may have something scalable. But scaling doesn't mean simply adding customers. You have to scale the system. More customers require more cleaners, more managers, more scheduling capacity, more quality control, more administrative infrastructure. If you grow revenue faster than your ability to deliver the service, the business can break. So the goal isn't grow as fast as possible, it's grow without destroying the economics that made the business work. So is a cleaning business a good business? Potentially, but its simplicity can be misleading. The barriers to starting can be relatively low, and that's both an opportunity and a problem. Because when it's easy to start, competition can be high. Anyone can buy cleaning supplies, anyone can create a social media page, anyone can say, "We clean houses." But not everyone can build a company that consistently delivers quality service across hundreds of recurring customers. That's the difference. The competitive advantage isn't the mop, it isn't the vacuum, it isn't even necessarily the cleaner. It's the system. The ability to acquire the right customers, price the service correctly, hire reliable people, schedule them efficiently, maintain quality, and keep customers for a long time. That's the business. The next time you see a cleaning company, don't just think about the people carrying vacuum cleaners into houses. Look deeper. Look at the contracts, look at the routes, look at how many customers are recurring. Look at how much each customer is worth. Look at how many hours cleaners spend actually cleaning, and how many hours they spend traveling. Look at the systems behind the scenes, and ask, is this company actually selling cleaning? Or is it selling time and convenience through a recurring service system? Because that's the deeper economics. The cleaning itself is only the visible part. The real business is building a machine that repeatedly turns labor into revenue. And the most important question isn't, how many houses can we clean? It's, can we build a system where customers keep paying, cleaners keep delivering, and the owner doesn't have to personally make everything happen? If you can do that, you don't just have a cleaning service, you have a business. And that's the real question behind every small business. What has to be true for this business to work? If you enjoyed breaking down the strategy behind this cleaning business, subscribe. We're going to keep taking ordinary businesses, pulling them apart, and uncovering the economic machines hiding underneath them. This is the business strategy behind everyday businesses, and I'll see you in the next one.